guys, so I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving and had a good, nice little break. We are going to continue on a normal schedule this week, so hybrid today, and then Thursday we'll pick back up in class. We're going to cover personal safety today, and then Thursday we're going to talk about lifetime fitness. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about personal safety on Thursday as well. In order to get participation for today, you're going to have to participate in a discussion board, and we're going to talk about texting and driving and personal safety that way in the discussion board. The only way for you to get participation points this week is for you to go into the discussion board and actually contribute something. So please, everybody, plug in. It's so nice to hear from Megan and Maya, but it would be wonderful to hear from everybody else. So please, please, please make sure you're watching these videos and you're participating in the discussion boards this week. Forgive me as I look down. I'm kind of following along with your textbook here, and I'm hoping you'll just follow along with this video as I sift through some of these things. So to get started, injuries in young adults, they include things like, well, actually, the risk factors for unintentional injuries kind of are marked by a bunch of different things. So economic status, typically if you're male, you're at high risk. Prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, so decision-making skills are not stellar in young men. Binge drinking, smoking, drunk driving, illicit drug use, sleep, so lack of sleep, type A personality, irritability, easily angered, low social support, all of those things are risk factors for personal safety. To be risk-free, there are a lot of different things that we can be doing. There are 3 underlying psychological attributes that you need to be aware of. So, self-efficacy, meaningful purpose in turmoil and trauma, and learning from positive and negative experiences. So the more that we learn from not just positive experiences in life, but negative experiences, the better off you're going to be in personal safety. So it's kind of like when you're a kid and you put your hand on the stove and you realize that it's hot, you don't do it anymore. So that's really what personal safety is all about, is learning once from that negative experience and not doing it again. So like, okay, this is bad for me, I don't need to do that again. Or I binge drank so much, threw up, never want to feel like that again kind of thing, and you don't do it again. So those negative experiences you really need to learn from, and you need to learn from your mistakes as much as you do the positive experiences. So why do accidents happen? So age. Injury is the leading cause of death in the first 4 decades of life in the United States. So up until 40, so every day more than 2,000 children and teenagers die from an injury that could have been prevented. So 2,000 is a lot. That's a lot. The 5 most common causes of unintentional injury are road traffic injuries, drowning, burns, falls, and poisoning. And most victims are males. So again, that's that prefrontal cortex that I was mentioning. Prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until mid to late 20s in men, and that's the decision-making marker. Whenever your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, then your decision-making skills are not on point. So women develop their prefrontal cortex a little earlier in life, so therefore their decision-making skills are better. They don't make risky decisions. They don't do most things that men do in challenging each other. Another one is alcohol. An estimated 40% of Americans are involved in an alcohol-related accident sometime during their lives. So a quarter of fatal motor vehicle accidents and half of motorcycle crashes are due to alcohol. Don't drink and drive. There's so many different options out there. Uber, taxi, Lyft. You don't just need a DD anymore. Uber and Lyft are very handy. I know that there are different things. I know at ASU they have a company that they run from students that they go pick up drunk students. So it's a little network that they have that you can text and somebody will come get you. That's just a student at ASU, so maybe they're in that area. Whatever it may be, which is a good network to have. I don't think Western has that. I know a few of my students were wanting to do that, which is a great idea if anybody wants to help run that. Another reason accidents happen is stress. So when you're tense and anxious, you tend to pay less attention to what you're doing. So you're worried about yourself. You're not worried about others. You're not worried about things that are outside of your realm that you're trying to focus on. Your book says, when facing danger, take deep breath, controlled, and it's a technique that first responders learn in their training. So that's the first thing that first responders are going to tell you, is take a deep, long, cleansing breath and try to collect yourself. Try to calm yourself back down. Try to come back to earth. All of those wonderful things. Situational factors. So driving on a curvy road, wet road, things like that are inherently dangerous. So icy roads, when it's snowing, when it's flooded, all of those things are situational factors. And then thrill seeking, a lot of people are adrenaline junkies, so they're really looking for that next adrenaline rush, whatever that may be. So parachute jumping, skydiving, all of those things can be hazardous. Most of the time there's really not any problems. I know my brother went skydiving and he didn't have any issues. But it's the simulated adventures that you that aren't monitored, like skydiving. Those people are professionals. Parachute people are professionals. If you're doing it by yourself, like you are jumping off your roof onto a trampoline, that's probably not the best idea. So you're looking for a professional adrenaline rush that's supervised, and a way for you to have control over the situation versus you trying to do it yourself. Okay, so safety on the road, lots of different things. So your book says an average of 170 people die every day in motor vehicle accidents. Approximately 1 every 12 minutes. Alcohol use is a factor in about 40% of those. Again, don't drink and drive. Make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing. Teenage drivers and their passengers are at highest risk. That's pretty obvious. Teenage drivers aren't paying attention to anything that they're doing. Young adults are more likely than older adults to be so severely injured that they need to be taken to an emergency department. So there are 3 all too common errors that typically happen. So falling or failing to scan the environment by looking ahead, not to the left or the right while driving, so you're not paying attention to your environment around you. You're just focused on you. Going too fast for road conditions, even if the speed limit. So again, wet roads, it's snowing, you think you're invincible, but you're not. Being distracted by something inside or outside the vehicle, so things like smoking, texting, the radio, your significant other sitting next to you. You're focused on those things instead of driving. And I can assure you that being focused on those things versus driving it's not good. It's not helpful. So make sure that you are focused. I understand going and looking at your phone to change a song or whatever it may be, but make sure that that's only for a split second, and then again, accidents happen in a split second. Everyone has had that encounter where they're looking down at their phone and they look up and everybody's hit their brakes except for you, and it's almost an inch between you getting in a car accident and not getting in a car accident. So make sure you're paying attention. Avoid distracted driving. Again, distracted drivers. So there are different types of distractions. So there are visual distractions and then there are manual distractions. So visual are things that take your eye off the road, like a text or a navigation device, GPS, fixing your makeup in the mirror, all of those things. You also have taking your hands off the wheel, which is manual. So taking your hands off the wheel for a playlist, a text, a call, to eat or drink something. Those are manual. Cognitive, which is taking your mind off of what you're doing. So listening to lyrics, chatting with a friend, place a call, paying attention to a podcast. All of those things are more cognitive versus you paying attention to the road. And then social, apparently young male drivers are at greatest risk for automobile accidents than female and older drivers. They drive faster when they have a friend in the car, particularly if in a happy mood. So typically men tend to drive faster. The U.S. Department of Transportation offers safety precautions, so never text on your phone, turn off the ringer on your phone, never eat, drink, they say primp. I guess that's referring to women, don't do your hair or makeup. Or focus on the GPS device, read or surf the radio stations. If you happen to call someone who's driving, suggest that the driver call you back when he or she is done driving. So, Don't text and drive. Don't talk on the phone. It's really hard for me to tell you guys these things because I'm hypocritical and I do a lot of these things. I do call people while I'm on the road. I definitely sift through radio stations. I listen to podcasts, Google Maps if I don't know where I'm going. So I think it's very important for you to be able to manage all of these things. You don't want to be focused on just Google Maps. You want to make sure that you're focused on the road as well. Don't talk or text. Again, we're talking about those things. So what makes talking or texting while driving so dangerous? They distract the brain. Conversation, phone leads to initiation blindness. And cell phone use delays the driver's reactions as much as having blood alcohol concentration at the legal limit of 0.08%. So alcohol versus texting seems to be the same situation. Stay sober and alert. So the number of fatality caused by drunk driving, particularly among young people, has dropped. They say that this attributes to the increase in the drinking age, so 21. Educational programs aimed at reducing nighttime driving by teens. They have different groups called SAD and similar groups, and the changes in state laws to lower the blood alcohol content level also. Please remember that psychoactive drugs like marijuana also impair driving, and the combination of the two widely used has a more severe impact than either one used alone. So make sure you don't use them together, and please don't use either one while you're driving. Falling asleep at the wheel is second only to alcohol as a cause of serious motor vehicle incident. So even after a night's sleep, the use of sleeping pills can impair driving ability, particularly in women, those who take extended release formulations. So make sure you're well rested before you drive. If you're driving at night, pull over, all of those things. Buckle up, make sure that you wear your seatbelt. Ages between 19 and 29 are less likely than others to use seatbelts. 2/3 of 15 to 20-year-olds killed in motor vehicle accidents not wearing seatbelts. Lap shoulder belts are used properly. They reduce the risk of fatality by 45%. I don't feel like I need to tell you to check for airbags in a car. I think those are pretty standard in today's cars. Rein in road rage. This happens to me a lot. I'm not sure if, especially if you're driving from far away. My boyfriend and I are extremely bad at this. I commute from Asheville, so when you're on the road for a very long time and people are going extremely slow, it's very hard to contain your road rage. So some strategies for reducing road rage: lower the stress in your life, so take a few moments to breathe deeply and relax. Consciously decide not to let other drivers get to you, so make sure it's not going to ruin your day. There's really not anything that's going to change in your day, so make sure you remember that. Like, that one car getting in front of you or cutting you off is not going to make or break your day, so don't let it bother you. Don't let it get into your head. Slow down. If you're going 5 or 10 miles over the speed limit, you won't have the time you need to react to anything that happens. Modify bad driving habits one at a time. If you tend to tailgate slow drivers, spend a week driving at twice your usual following distance. If you're a habitual horn honker, silence yourself. So it's okay to change your habits. It might actually help you to get farther behind them, even if you're going slower. If you think about it, if you're tailgating that person and they slam on their brakes, you're probably going to be in their back seat. Okay? Be courteous even if other drivers aren't, so don't be in the passing lane, okay? I don't understand why people want to ride in the left lane all the time. Don't tailgate or switch lanes without signaling, so make sure you use your turn signal. Don't use your horn or high beams. When people honk their horn, it's so obnoxious. Like, if anybody's in that big of a hurry, I'll let you over, okay? If you're honking your horn, I think that someone's dying, someone in your family's having a baby, it's some sort of emergency that you've just got to go. If it's just you being a complete butt munch, that's not okay. So try not to honk your horn. Never retaliate. Whether another driver does, keep your cool, count to 10, take a deep breath. If you yell or gesture at someone who's upset with you, the conflict may escalate. Has anybody seen that video of a man shooting somebody because they passed him in traffic? Yeah, so especially with things escalating in today's society, make sure you just don't retaliate. Again, it's not that big of a deal. You're going to get there either way. And whether you're going 5 miles faster or 5 miles slower, it's really not going to make a difference on your timetable. If you do something stupid, show that you're sorry. Apparently the most popular one is to slap yourself on your forehead or the top of your head to indicate that you know you goofed. It can also help with people who are pissed off at you while you're driving. So if you make a wave, like I'm sorry, or like oh my gosh, those things are helpful when you're driving. Bike safety, so make sure that you are wearing a helmet. Apparently there's a bunch of reasons why people don't wear helmets, and that's discomfort, cost, distance, inconvenience, vanity, concerns about ridicule, impaired vision when wearing a helmet, all of those things, but make sure that you're wearing a helmet. Safety at work and at home, so computers, repetitive motion injuries have surpassed back and neck injuries as the #1 claim for workers' compensation. Repeating motions such as the hand and arm movements made while using a computer keyboard all day every day can result in muscle and tendon strain. About 10-20% of people with pain, tingling, or numbness in the hands may have carpal tunnel syndrome. The slope and height of a computer keyboard can affect the likelihood of repetitive motion injuries. If you work at a computer, make sure you have good posture and correct positioning of the computer. So make sure that you're sitting up straight, which I'm not even doing right now because I can't with my computer. And make sure that your arms are at 90 degrees. So your shoulder, you want your elbow and your shoulder to be at 90 degrees. Some tips, place the keyboard so that, again, that your elbows are bent at 90 degrees. And that you don't have a bend in your wrist. Use a chair that provides ample back support. If you experience neck strain, place a document holder next to your screen so that you can view the materials easily. So those are very helpful, especially when you're reading. Every 15 minutes, take a 30-second break. Stretch your arms, walk around. Take a 15-minute break at least once every 2 hours, and that's important while you're studying as well. Vision problems, this is a very big one, especially in today's society with computers and TVs. Loss of vision impairment when you're staring at your computer, my eyes start to hurt. It's a blue screen, especially if you're playing video games too. It hurts your vision. The eye focuses on a computer image differently from the way it focuses on a printed one. Pixels appear on a computer screen unlike characters on a paper. So at home, every year, home accidents cause nearly 25 million injuries. Over 30% of fatal injuries to adolescents occur in the home. Smoke detectors, poison, all of those things fall into that. So fires, make sure that you are aware of where fuel is, a heat source, and oxygen. Don't let the three mix. If a fire starts and it's small, you may be able to put it out with a portable fire extinguisher. Make sure you always have a fire extinguisher in an apartment or wherever you are. Dorm rooms do have sprinkler systems if you live in a dorm room. Which gender is at greater risk? Oh man. So here's some gender differences in vulnerability. Men are 10 times more likely to die of an occupational injury than women. Males are most often the victims and the perpetrators of homicide in the United States. About 60% of cases reported by the Bureau of Justice Statistics, both the offender and the victim were male. Overall, men are 3.6 times more likely than women to be murdered and 9 times more likely to commit murder. Both men and women are more likely to kill or attempt to kill male victims than female victims. Men are more likely than women to be assaulted as adults, and the genders also differ in their fear of crime. In a recent study, women but not men tended to become less apprehensive and to feel less vulnerable as they became older. Increased income correlated with higher levels of fear for men but lower levels for women. So women tend to feel more secure if they have more money, and men tend to feel less secure the more money that they have. So men are at greater risk. That seems to be the common denominator there. So violence in America, oh man, we're going to get into a sticky subject. So There's really no explanation or simple answer for violence. There's 3 different things that can be identified for violence, and that's expression, manipulation, and retaliation. So some people use violence to release feelings, some people want something, and some people just want to retaliate and get back at others. So, gun violence. When we're talking about violence, typically gun violence tends to come into play. So 74,000 injuries and 32,000 deaths every year. That probably has increased this year due to the amount of shootings that we have had. Suicide risk is highest in white males, while black males are at highest risk for fatal shootings. Only car accidents kill more Americans than shootings. So here's some statistics for you guys. Incidents of firearms use. So 68% of homicides, 52% of suicides, 43% of robberies, 21% of aggravated assaults, and 85% of fatal suicide attempts. So a lot, very high statistics there for you with gun use. Mass shootings, again, it's hard to talk about these things because they're happening so much in today's society. But mass shooters tend to have the following symptoms. They have social alienation, self-esteem, paranoia, narcissism, sociopath, psychopath type of thing, depression, suicidality, and family dysfunction. We can talk about this a little bit more on the discussion board as well as Thursday. Mental health professionals note that less than 3 to 5% of crimes involve people with mental illnesses, so they really don't have a mental illness most of the time. Fewer than 5% of the 120,000 gun-related killings in the United States are perpetrated by people diagnosed with mental illnesses, so that's less than 5%. Again, that's a low number. Mass shootings represent distortions of rather than depictions of the actions of mentally ill people. Public health approach, lots of different things going on here. Public health approach, prohibiting the purchase or the possession of firearms, prohibiting firearm purchase by people convicted of misdemeanor, and requiring background checks on recipients. So a bunch of different things about limiting the amount of guns that people can get their hand on. So violence and crime on campus, it tends to be elevated. College students between ages of 18 and 24 are less likely to be victims of violent crime, including robbery and assault, than non-students of the same age. Hazing is a big thing. I just don't understand hazing, to be honest with you. It typically refers to activity that humiliates, degrades, or poses a risk for emotional or physical harm to join a group or society. It's their initiation, basically, making people do. They want to see how far that you will go just to be a part of their group. So, security program, I want you guys to be aware of these. These are very important. Avoid walking alone in the evening or night, especially women. Train yourself to be aware of your surroundings and the people around you. Don't be distracted. The number one thing that you should not do is call somebody on your phone because you want to be aware of the people around you. Always carry your cell phone enough money so that you can take a taxi home if you find yourself in a dicey situation. Program the campus security number into your cell phone, and that is a very big deal. I did that at NC State. I had the police number programmed into my phone so that way in case something did happen I could call them, which nothing ever did happen, but it's a large university and I wanted to take the precaution. Always lock your doors and any first and second floor windows at night so make sure that nobody can get in. Random story, when we were in undergrad, it was my sophomore year, we were living in an apartment. We did not lock our door. It was probably later in the night. It was on a weekend. And somebody randomly walked into our apartment thinking that it was a party. And they didn't know that it wasn't the right apartment. They were so messed up. So they walked in. After that, we locked every door that we possibly could, every window that we possibly could. But it does happen. People walk into your apartment. Never leave your ID, wallet, checkbook, jewelry where people can see them. This happened to me. My car got broken into in Raleigh because I left a GPS out. Broke into the back window. Literally stole every single thing out of my car. They even stole the water bottles that I had in the back of my car. Be careful with information, which photographs you post online, on social networking. If you post something while you're gone, people are more likely to go to your house and rob you. Never drive when you're drowsy or under the influence of alcohol or drugs, so don't ever drive if you've been smoking, drinking, or had some sort of prescription pill. So, now we get into the sexual victimization and violence part of this. So, cyberbullying, sexting, all of those things. Cyberbullying is a very big part of today's society. We've had people go to jail for it. We've had people die over cyberbullying. So as many as 20% of adolescents and young adults have reported being cyberbullied or cyberbullies. Both cyberbullies and their victims are likely to experience psychiatric and psychosomatic problems. 1 in 4 of those who had been victimized reported fearing for his or her safety. Cyberbullying is easier, so a lot of people report it being easier. Sexting is defined as the sharing of images or videos of sexually explicit content. So don't share things that you don't want public. I don't know if I shared this with you guys, but I'm pretty sure I did. I had one of my volleyball players who unfortunately is a very vulnerable young girl, and she wants attention, and she was seeing a young man, and she decided to send him some things, and he got mad at her and sent them to the entire football team, and then that picture got to another football team at another school, and now there's things that she can't get back. They've all seen her. So don't do that, especially with today's society where you can't get things back and the media is rampant. You just never know who's going to get it. Sexual harassment, so that is unwanted sexual attention, whether that's someone wolf whistling at you, Googling over you. They don't have to touch you. That's sexual harassment, okay? Sexual assault is when someone touches you. So sexual harassment, nearly 2/3 of students experience sexual harassment at some point during their college career. Nearly 1/3 of students say they have experienced sexual harassment, such as being touched, grabbed, or pinched in a sexual way. Sexual comments and jokes are the most common form of harassment. The most common rationale for harassment is, I thought it was funny. Typically, it's not funny. If you're trying to be cute and flirt with somebody, just don't. Stalking. College students may be targeted for several reasons. They live close to each other, flexible schedules, large amounts of unsupervised time. Most college women know their stalkers, but half are acquaintances, a high percentage of them classmates, boyfriends, or ex-boyfriends. About half of the women stalked on campus said they had not sought help from anyone. Intimate partner, dating flannel violence, physical violence, the threat of or the use of on one's partner to cause them death. Sorry, I'm very distracted right now. So physical violence, sexual violence, psychological violence, all of these things. So if you're dating someone and you experience these things, they threaten you or they cause harm to you, they hit you, they push you, whatever it is that's physical. Sexual, so they engage a partner in sexual activity without consent, maybe you're asleep, or it's abusive. The use of threats, actions, or coercive tactics that cause trauma. So emotional harm, they say things that traumatize you, basically. They say things that are just not appropriate at all. So 18 to 24 are frequent intimate partner violence. 1 in 3 undergraduate women typically experience this. 17 to 49% of college students reported perpetrating sexual assault against a dating partner. So the risk of intimate partner violence, gender, both men and women experience acts of violence and aggression by their partner, but the violence perpetrated against women by men is likely to be much more severe. Sexual minorities, so compared with heterosexual students, male and female sexual minority undergraduates typically have higher ratings, violence in the family of origin, emotional states of mental health, substance abuse, and sexual risk-taking. So most people who want support are likely to be female, white, young, higher socioeconomic status. They attach jealousy or anger to the violence. They feel less shame, experience psychological or stalking related violence, and have someone witness the violence. So if they have someone with them, they're more likely to report it. They're more likely to get help for it, because someone's probably going to make them get help for it. So sexual coercion is sexual activity forced upon a person by the exertion of the psychological pressure by another person. So they make them feel like they're inadequate, or they make them feel like they can't be in that relationship if they don't have sex with them, or that they're not good enough, or they're a tease, or they're whatever it is. That's coercion. If a woman says no, or a man says no, no means no. That doesn't mean, oh, well, you're such a tease, or you're a robot, or you don't like me enough, or, well, we're not going to be in a relationship if we can't have sex, or whatever it is. That's coercion. You're trying to psychologically pressure someone into having sex with you. And the biggest one that I've heard is, oh, well, do you not trust me? Do you not trust me enough to have sex with me? Which is coercion. Like, don't ever suggest that someone doesn't trust you. They just don't want to right now. Co-victimization, experiencing both sexual and physical forms of intimate partner violence. And rape is obviously sexual intercourse without consent. That's a very big deal. Types of rape: there are marital rape, anger rape, power rape. The most common one is the domestic abuse, which is ignored. Anger rape is a total stranger motivated by hatred. Power rape is typically premeditated and motivated by a desire to dominate and control somebody else. Sadistic rape is using bondage, torture, things like that. Gang rape: 3 or more rapists, men in close groups and that drink and party together, such as fraternities or athletic groups. And sexual gratification rape is usually an impulsive attack by someone willing to use physical coercion for the sake of sex. Acquaintance or date rape. Typically, factors that play a role in sexual aggression are personality, early experiences. So the earlier someone experiences sex, the higher risk. Situational variables: what happens during the date, kind of thing. Rape myths, as several studies have confirmed, college men hold more rape-tolerant attitudes than do college women. Social norms, drinking, date rape, drugs, and gender differences in interpreting sexual cues. Stranger rape is: don't advertise that you're a woman living alone, to open your door to strangers, lock your car when it's parked, and drive with locked doors. Avoid dark and deserted areas. Have house or car keys in hand as you approach the door, and carry a device for making a loud noise. So all of those things you need to make sure that you are aware of if you're by yourself. So in case you are raped, and I hate to even discuss this, but it's really important because it does happen. If you are raped, number 1, call 911. Call 911 or drive yourself to the police station right then and there. Most people make the mistake of feeling dirty, grungy, so they go home and shower. Don't go home and shower. Go straight to the police station. Do not pass go. Call 911. Go to the police station. What they're going to do is they're going to swab you. They're going to take your clothes, which is perfectly fine. You probably don't want to wear those clothes ever again. And they're going to get DNA samples from the person who raped you. And then you have a court case, and that person can go to jail. Okay? So make sure that you go to the police, or you go to the hospital if you need to go to the hospital. Make sure you go to one of those 2 places first. Don't go home. Do not go home. Do not think that being raped is okay and that you can just push that to the side. It's not okay. It's not okay in any type of motion or gender. Okay. So again, helping the victim of violence. So don't try to deny that it happened. Okay, don't let them deny it. If you're a victim, don't deny it. You're just going to repress it, and it's just going to hurt you in the long run. Don't pressure the victim to talk or not to talk. So be open. Don't force them to talk about something they don't want to talk about, and don't shut them down if they do want to talk about it. Don't blame the victim. So I hate this. This is so public and what's going on in today's society. Don't blame the victim. So your book says, even when no one doubts that the victim is completely innocent, individuals may be plagued by regrets and self-accusation. Why didn't I lock the window? Why did I park on the dark street? Any second guessing or implied criticism adds to the burden and shame of the victim. Okay, so why didn't they come Why didn't they come forward sooner? Why didn't they say something then? Why did they wait until now? They just wanted to further their career. Whatever it is, don't shame them or blame them. Okay, you're not in their shoes. You don't know what happened. You don't want to be in that situation. So don't blame them or shame them for it. Don't try to rush the victim to leave the past behind and get on with his or her life. That's a situation that nobody should do under any circumstances. Everyone is willing to move on at their own time, not your time. So it's something that happened to them, not you, and they will get over it whenever it's time for them. So make sure that you're there for them. If they need to see help, make sure that you provide them with that help. Okay, so that is definitely all I have for personal safety for today. I will post a discussion board for you, and you should have that done by next Wednesday, or this Wednesday, I apologize. So I will see you guys in class on Thursday. Have a wonderful day, guys.